Welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called The Mystery of Embodiment. Good morning. Good morning. Let's try that again, see if we can rouse up some more energy. Good morning. Right, I like that, thank you. I am Reverend Suzanne. I'm the minister of this congregation. My pronouns are she and hers. And I think that everyone here deserves extra credit for showing up on such a gray and rainy morning. And especially even the people on Zoom who had to get up and turn on their devices. So extra points to you too. We are a church of open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands, and everyone who shares our values is welcome here among us. Heather, would you do me a favor and close that door? Thank you. Yesterday was our big annual alternative holiday fair, and I just want to take a moment to give big thanks to all the volunteers who set up and cleaned up and cooked and baked and donated and shopped. I'm guessing it was a big success. Eric and Barbara, I'm looking at you. I got a thumbs up. Thanks to everybody who made it happen. We have kicked off the holiday season officially, and there is more fun and learning in store for you at church this coming week. On Monday night, there is the Yankee Swap. And on Tuesday, there is the climate book discussion. Plus, next Saturday is our Carols and Cookies event. If you need more information, please look in your midweek email newsletter or sign up for it. Next Sunday, we are going to have here the Reverend Susan Sahutsky Brown, who is going to serve as our halftime sabbatical minister in January, February, and March. So she's coming for a bonus Sunday in December so everyone can meet her and get to know her and feel confident. So I think you will like her a lot. That's next Sunday. And then I'll be back. Well, I'll be here next Sunday as well. And then I will lead us in a brunch service on the 17th. And then on the 24th, we will have 2 Christmas Eve services at 5 and 7 p.m. and no service in the morning because Christmas Eve is a Sunday this year. And we've decided, so you know, there's no Sunday morning service on that Sunday, but 2 evening services. And we will have a special guest harpist along with other beautiful music, so come and enjoy. And then the following Sunday, which is New Year's Eve, the climate team will lead everyone in a walk in the forest. And to start off January and my sabbatical, Rabbi Jessica will be here to lead us in worship that day. So that's your preview. Now on to today's service. Today's service is all about bodies. Turns out, and I know this is controversial, but we all have one. And they actually have some functions in addition to transporting our heads around. Today is about making friends with our bodies and all of their particularities. And on this, the first Sunday in Advent, we are celebrating the mystery of incarnation. Not Jesus, but us. We're thinking about the holy and how it resides in our bodies and connects us to other people and to all that, and to the spirit of life that courses through the world. So I want to thank today's helpers for making this service happen. That's our usher, Mary Ellen Fitzgibbon, and our greeter, Catherine Cezot. Our coffee hosts are Paul Belfonte and Michelle DeVoe. Thank you for that. And now, let's have our weekly practice of welcoming one another into worship. Turn around, wave, say hi, give hugs. Let's wave to the people on Zoom. Hi, Zoom people. Good morning. Oh, look at Wendy's smile. She's had her coffee this morning. Hi, Bob and Phyllis. Hi, Beth. Hi, Carol. Hi, Mary. Oh, good. Lots of people are at home today. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Hooray, hooray. Okay, good morning. Now we've got a little bit more energy going. And I call us to worship with these words by the Reverend Barbara Hamilton Holloway. She writes, "We gather here as individual people, young and old, male and female, temporarily abled and disabled, gay, lesbian, bisexual, straight people, gender non-conforming people, all the colors of the human race, and theist, atheist, agnostic, Christian, Buddhist, feminist, humanist. We gather here as a community of people who are more than categories. We gather here, each ministering to the other, meeting one another's strength, encouraging wholeness. We give thanks for this extraordinary blessing, the gathering of separate, unique individuals as one whole, one body, one church. Here may our minds stretch, our hearts open, our spirits deepen. Here may we acknowledge our brokenness and be ever stirred by love's infinite possibilities. Amen. And now we light together the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. And here to do it for us this morning is Paula Moroz. She's a longtime member, but today we are celebrating the fact that Paula is the co-chair of the new anti-racism team, which is one of our 2 new ministry teams, which you voted on a couple weeks ago, and this past week the board reaffirmed. Yay! So Paula is the co-chair of one of our 2 new, affirmed, blessed, official ministry teams. Thank you, Paula.
Okay, I invite you now to rise in body and spirit, and join me in the words of our covenant, which you can see on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
Thank you, Paula. Thanks, everybody. If you'd please remain standing and join in our opening hymn, which I believe is 389. The number will come up, and so will the lyrics. So you don't have to dig out your hymnals. 389, gathered here. And I believe our choir is leading this morning.
Yeah, folks, we're going to do this as a round. First, we'll sing it one time through in its entirety. And then those of you on the right will follow Corey. Those of you on the center right will follow Randall. Those of you on center left will follow Peter, and those of you on far left follow Cindy.
Well, I think it served its purpose. The Spirit has drawn near in its usual messy, haphazard way. Yay! It sounded pretty. And now it's time for our story today. I will start with a question. Who here likes surprises? Okay, who here doesn't like surprises? Oh dear, we're about half and half. That is good information for me. I had planned to have a surprise guest here today for our story time, but I just could not decide if that was a good idea or not. I did not know if our guest might be too frightened by looking at all of you, this big crowd, or if maybe some people here might be frightened of him. So here's what I did. I asked my son Quinn to bring our special guest and to sit in the parlor, and then we can decide together what to do next. And here is my story, which is about our special guest. Now, when I first came to Melrose 6 years ago, the kids used to ask me all the time, "Do you have a dog? And will you bring your dog to church?" Finally, someone explained to me that Reverend Anita, my predecessor, had a little dog that she used to bring to church all the time, and some kids here seem to think that ministers just come with pets. You know, like the kids at Hogwarts. Well, the thing is that I do have a dog. This is Bernie, and this is how he looked when we first got him back in 2017. Bernie is a black Labrador, but he does not retrieve anything. So I think it's incorrect to call him a Labrador Retriever. Bernie is a big dog. When we first got him, he weighed 96 pounds. Now he weighs a little bit less than that, 80-something maybe, I think. And now he looks like this. Just like me, Bernie has aged a lot in the last 7 years. He's gotten all gray, and he moves a bit slower than he used to, just like me. And Bernie is still a really good dog. We also have a cat. His name is Wilbur, and we call him Weeby. We got him as a little kitten during COVID, and now he is a big cat, but today's story isn't about Weeby. I thought it was just fair to include him. The story is really about Bernie. Bernie loves to go on walks. We go out with him once or twice just about every day. Here we are a few days ago near our house. That's me, and that's my son Quinn. And we're walking around a pond that's near us that's called the Old Res. Sometimes when it's hot outside, Bernie likes to go on a little dip in the water. He doesn't really swim. Mostly he just kind of sits in the water and he drinks it, especially when he needs to cool down. Bernie's very favorite things, besides food, are people and riding in the car. And his favorite people are those two right there. That's Lily, my daughter, and she's the one who chose him to be our dog, and she takes really good care of him. And with Lily there is Bernie's second favorite person. That's James, my husband, Lily's dad. And Bernie, as I said, loves to go for rides in the car. That's him in Lily's car. She has a convertible, and he loves it. And together they go to special parks with lots of woods, and they go on long walks together. And you can you see Bernie smile here? He knows he's going somewhere fun. But a couple years ago, Lily moved away to college. And so now Bernie really misses her, and sometimes he's sad. But she comes home a lot, and when she comes home, Bernie just squeals. He does this thing where I can't even do the noise if it's a squeal when he sees her. So that's really nice. So my point is that Bernie is a happy dog, and he's a good dog, but he actually has a secret. He has kind of a mysterious secret that you can't tell just by looking at him. As I told you before, Bernie loves people. He's very sweet and gentle all the time around humans. But here's the mysterious secret part. Bernie hates other dogs. I mean, all out hates them, hates them, hates them, hates them. We cannot go anywhere where there's other dogs, or he will bark and lunge at them and try to eat them, basically, for no reason at all. It's kind of crazy. You see, Bernie is a rescue dog, and we didn't get him until he was about 8 years old. So his past is a real mystery to us. We don't know how he was when he was little. But we have a few clues. First, there's the weird behavior. Plus, he has some scars on his face, and his teeth are all ground down. Bernie's foster carers guessed that when he was little, he was often chained up, and he tried to chew his way out. We think maybe that bigger dogs attacked him back then, so much that it changed his brain. So that even now, 7 years later, whenever Bernie sees another dog, even one that's a lot smaller than he is, he gets really, really anxious and really scared. He seems to think that all other dogs are about to attack him, so he attacks them first. So we have to be super careful when we're out with Bernie. He always wears a harness, and we keep him on a strong leash and as far away from other dogs as we can, and it can be really inconvenient. We can't go to dog parks, and we can't have friends over who want to bring their dogs. And when we first got him, we had hoped that, Bernie would grow out of this behavior, but he hasn't. So we've accepted it now. It's just part of who he is. Bernie has a trauma that is stored somewhere in his brain or in his body, and it's not going anywhere. It's not his fault, and we can see that he still tries his best to be a good dog anyway. And so we do our best to love Bernie just as he is and take care of him just as he is. Because, like Bernie, everyone makes mistakes, and everyone has flaws or things about themselves that they can't change or fix, things that might be inconvenient, but things that help make them who they are, make them perfectly imperfect, just how they are. And we love them not in spite of that weirdness, but because of it, because it's part of the whole. So, would any of the kids here like to meet Bernie? Would you like to meet him? Oh, some of the grown-ups too. Okay. So I brought my dog to church today, but he is in the parlor, and I thought that you could maybe go out there and pet him if you wanted to, or if people demand it, I could bring him in and show him to you. I don't know how he is with crowds or chanting crowds, especially. They want Bernie to come in. Can Bernie come in, please? Hey, Maggie, how are you? Good. All right. Well, we don't have lots of time. We have to go a little faster. Okay. All right, here's Bernie. Would you guys like to pet Bernie? See, he's a big dog, isn't he? But he's really sweet, I promise. But you don't have to pet him. He won't bark. He won't bark. He almost never barks, especially if there's no other dogs here. Anybody else want to pet Bernie? You have to come up now. All right, I think Bernie's going to lead the parade, maybe. We'll go out this way. Thank you guys for listening and for being so sweet to Bernie. Bernie, we're going to go out now. We're going this way. Come on. Oh. Here, Quinn. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for your good listening. Thank you. Okay. Every Sunday at the center of our service, we create together a time of quiet, a moment for prayer and meditation, a chance to connect with our inner selves, our highest ideals, our own individual sense of what is holy and important. So let's begin this time by closing our eyes and breathing however is comfortable. Feel your feet on the floor, feel your body relaxing, sinking into your seat, and breathe. In our meditation time together, first we'll join in our centering song, then we sit for a few minutes of shared quiet, then we speak to one another of our joys and sorrows, and then I will lead a prayer. For our centering song today and for the month of December, when our theme is mystery, our song is Where Do We Come From? It's number 1003 in the teal hymnal. The lyrics will appear on the screen. Join in as you like. Please remain seated and just let the song gently guide you into our time of quiet.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are
It's our tradition here in worship every Sunday to share with one another the joys and sorrows of our lives, our personal milestones in this journey of living. This sharing with one another and this listening with love and care draws us closer together as a community. So I invite anyone who has a sorrow to share to please come forward so you can speak at the mic and be heard and seen. I invite anybody who is in our Zoom audience today to go ahead and type any sorrow you might have into the chat box in Zoom, and I will read it aloud. So a lot of joys this morning. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Please light a candle to symbolize all of our joys, those shared and those that are unspoken and remain in our hearts this morning. Let the candle be a reminder to all of us to count all of our gratitude and our many blessings, to feel grateful for them in our lives. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Please join me in the spirit of prayer. I offer these words, which are adapted from a prayer by the Reverend Joe Von Rue. Spirit of life and love, God of many names and yet none at all. Our hearts are stretched thin. We see and hear the devaluing of people of color, of those with disabilities, of women, of immigrants. We witness the violence being done in the Middle East, and as we mourn the loss of each life, we resist the devaluing of humanity, which makes this violence possible. We pray now that people will see each other as human beings, worthy of love, of water and medicine, of freedom and safety. We are overwhelmed sometimes with sorrow, and yet we must not look away. We hold fast because we carry hope in our hearts. Hope that together we can make peace. Hope that we can yet dismantle systems of oppression. Hope that the collective of humanity will look at one another and say, "This has got to change." However thin our resilience may be wearing, we do not give up or give in. We move for justice. We live for peace. We will not rest until we are heard. We will not rest until equity is made more real all around us. Spirit of life, we look within our own hearts to the burning coal that is the center of our being, the place where our hope for the world lives, the place where our faith in humanity resides, and there we make the courage to continue moving forward, however rough the path may be. Help us now to connect deeply with that source of hope so that we can come back to the world renewed. Help us connect deeply with ourselves and one another so that we might come back to our work stronger. Amen.
Now is the time for our offertory. Our church is a self-supporting organization funded by your generous annual pledge. You may also contribute to our weekly collection plate, which we split every month with a deserving cause. Folks on Zoom can donate either way using the orange button at the top right corner of our homepage at melroseuu.org. For the month of December, this church will be giving half our collection plate to the Melrose Emergency Fund. The fund was established in 1996 after 25 families were displaced by 2 fires. Since that time, the fund has accepted and dispersed hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations to Melrose families, with a focus on basic needs such as food, rent, and utilities. Today is the first Sunday of Advent, and so for our offertory music today, the choir offers you a lovely arrangement of the classic Advent carol, O come, Emmanuel.
So I have two readings for us this morning. They are both by the same author, so let me start by telling you just a little bit about her. Her name is Laura Hershey, and when Laura was 11, as a child with neuromuscular disease, she served as the poster child for a Jerry Lewis telethon, which you may have heard of. For 4 decades, the Jerry Lewis telethon raised money for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. You might remember it. Years later, Laura realized that the telethon was humiliating for all disabled people, or maybe for most of them involved. At least she felt that way, and she began to protest the telethon. This is an excerpt from an essay she wrote in 1993 called From Poster Child to Protester. Quote, "The telethon has one goal, to raise as much money as possible for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, or MDA. Conventional wisdom says that the most effective way to do this is to appeal directly to the emotions of viewers, to move people so strongly with stories of tragic suffering that they will want to help save Jerry's kids. Those orchestrating the telethon have a foolproof, not-so-secret weapon: children. The point is to paint a picture of a victim so tragic and at the same time so cute and appealing that viewers will be compelled to call in a pledge." Laura Hershey goes on, "Shortly after my stint as poster child was over, I remember meeting a stranger in a store who recognized me from the telethon. He said to me, 'I bet you really hope they find a cure soon.' When he said this, I realized that by this time I almost never even contemplated that possibility anymore, let alone hoped for it. I told him that. I don't think he believed me. I find the same reaction now, all these years later, when I criticize the telethon for implying that people with disabilities sit around hoping and praying for a cure. I've encountered people who, never having tried it, think that living life with a disability is an endless hardship. For many of us, it's actually quite interesting, though not without its problems. And the majority of those problems result from the barriers, both physical and attitudinal, which surround us, or from the lack of decent support services. These are things that can be changed, but only if we as a society recognize them for what they are. And we'll never recognize them if we stay so focused on curing individuals of disability, rather than making changes to accommodate disability into our culture." Unquote. Laura Hershey's poetry was collected in 2019, 9 years after she passed away. Her poetry has been hugely influential in the disabled community, and I find it compelling as an able-bodied person as well, for it speaks to our shared humanity. Here is Laura Hershey's poem about her experience of people's typical reaction when she wants to tell them about the truth of her existence living with disability. It's called Telling by Laura Hershey. "You will bore them. Your voice will break, your ink spill and stain your coat. No one will understand. Their eyes become fences. You will park yourself forever on the outside, your differentness once and for all revealed, dangerous. The names you give to yourself will become epithets. Your happiness will be called bravery, denial. Your sadness will justify their pity. Your fear will magnify their fears. Everything you say will prove something about their God or their economic system. Your feelings that change day to day, kaleidoscopic, will freeze in place, brand you forever, justify anything they decide to do with you. Those with power can afford to tell their story or not. Those without power risk everything to tell their story and must. Someone somewhere will hear your story and decide to fight, to live and refuse compromise. Someone else will tell her own story, risking everything." Here ends the readings. A couple of years ago now, I was invited into a minister's study group. So now, twice a year, fall and spring, I travel up to a retreat center in New Hampshire for 2 days called a convocation. It's a time of in-depth study, discussion, and sharing. We choose our topic together for each convocation, and generally, there's a reading list for each gathering, something like 3 full books and maybe 5 more scholarly articles. Plus, members then present their own papers at our meetings. It's a lot. Last time around, our topic was disability, joy, and justice. I have to admit I wasn't excited or interested at all initially. It's not my thing, I thought, but oh well. I knew, I thought, what it was all about. I thought I got it and it didn't really apply to me, and I was wrong. First, there were writers that I had never encountered, people like Laura Hershey with raw talent and fresh perspective, and they challenged me. Second, and much more important, the topic did apply to me in ways I had not grasped or anticipated. And so I will try to elucidate all of that now. Please bear with me. The first day, just a few hours into our gathering, our topic leaders convened us in one room, 17 people, to share our artwork. We had been assigned, in addition to all the reading, to make a project, painting, sculpture, poetry, song, present it to the group in 5 minutes apiece, something that expresses our own experience of disability. I really struggled with that assignment. What experience did I have? None, really, unless you count that time last year, my experience of knee replacement times 2. So I buckled down and wrote a poem about that time, mostly about fear of surgery and how at some point you just have to let go and trust the professionals. It was not a good poem. I will not share it here, but I did it because that was the assignment. Here's the thing, if you had asked me before that gathering what I expected would come out of it, what I thought that random group of people knew about disability, I would have said, not much. I mean, I didn't see anyone there using a wheelchair or walking aids or a guide dog, so I would have said that we were all normal, non-disabled people. But what I heard there was exactly the opposite. Everyone in that room had some sort of intense experience to convey, some experience of disability that you would not know by looking at them. People talked about hearing loss, heart conditions, lung problems, cancer, chronic headaches, joint pain, learning disabilities, anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, on and on. Only a couple people in the room did not have direct experience of disability within their own bodies. But even they held stories of formative experiences of disability and hospitalization that close to them, maybe affecting their own siblings or their children. Every last person had intimate experience of disability to share. After about an hour or so, it became clear to me that I had come into the room laden with assumptions, wrong assumptions about what disability is and looks like and how many of us it touches and who and what is normal. Unconsciously, it seems, I had carried the belief that the word disability applies to only a few, only to people who use visible accommodations. And what I learned that day, what is still echoing in my mind, is that the opposite of that assumption is true, that just about everyone who has a body and makes it into middle age carries with them some experience of that body failing. I hope you will excuse all of my air quotes. I know that that can be annoying. But I can think of no other way of showing what I discovered, that it wasn't our bodies that were wrong or failing, it was my concepts, my understanding and my language for talking about ability and disability and normal were wrong. My worldview was failing me. Not with quotes, it was actually failing me. What the conversation demonstrated in a brand new way for me was that my understanding had been upside down. The truth isn't that most people are healthy and functional and normal. The truth is that most of us, most of that group, most of any group anywhere, are living with, struggling with a condition or several conditions or embedded traumas, past or present. The truth is that having a body, any body, means living with complexity, vulnerability, trauma, anxiety, living with the possibility, the probability, really, that we will face or are facing everyday challenges with our bodies. When I stopped and let that sink in, my thought was, If people here at this convocation, this random assortment of UU ministers, are carrying so much experience of disability, what does that mean for my congregation? Is the same true for them? Are there people in the congregation living and working with far more struggle, more physical and emotional difficulty than I am aware of? Are they just not talking about it? Not talking to one another, or maybe not talking to me about their experience of disability, I wondered. I wondered if all of my assumptions about health and ability and normalcy had been showing through in my ministry. If I were somehow conveying a message of ableism, actually discouraging people from sharing with me their struggles and concerns. And I sat with that wondering for a long time. I thought about my knee replacement journey last year, about how I actually pushed myself and rushed my recovery so I could get back here, get back to appearing here in worship like everything with me was healed and normal and perfect, when it wasn't. Instead of pushing us as a congregation to install a railing on the steps, something that would help everyone, a change that we had already been discussing for years before my knee problem started, I pushed myself to look like I didn't need a railing because ableism. I did not want to appear like I wasn't fit, like I wasn't able to climb the stairs just like everybody else. I did not want to be other in your eyes, so I pretended that I was just fine. How often do we do this? How often do we send out subtle and not so subtle messages that make people other, that enforce some unspoken imaginary line between disabled and not? How often do we feel shame about some supposed failing of our own bodies and we act on that shame, sending out the message that everybody should feel that way? How often do we reinforce the ableism all around us? When you start thinking about it, it's really hard to stop. Another thing I learned at the convocation is that many disability rights activists consider the category of visibly disabled as the original other, that ism that all other isms are built upon. They argue that in modern so-called Western societies there is an unspoken social hierarchy and that people with visible disabilities are generally on the bottom. They're the first to be impacted, to be called disposable and targeted. That was certainly true in Nazi Germany. And other people since then have also publicly argued for selective infanticide, something disability rights activists consider a genocide against their people. It made me realize that the truth, the deep truth, is the opposite, that no one is disposable. We all have bodies, complex, vulnerable, miraculous, beautiful, all of them. None of them are other. None of them. There's no line between able and disabled. That is a fiction. It's just all of us. And the minute someone tries to draw that line is the minute we are all in trouble. What's more, even those few of us who feel fully abled are only temporarily so. All of us in every minute are aging, slowly slipping into that group of people, the elderly, who struggle most with compound physical disabilities and barriers to inclusion. It's just a matter of time. We really do have to ask often, why aren't there more elderly or visibly disabled people here in this room? What are the barriers to inclusion here at church? Laura Hershey wrote, "The majority of our problems result from the barriers, both physical and attitudinal, which surround us, or from the lack of decent support services. These are things that can be changed, but only if we as a society recognize them for what they are." I used to think that disability rights was about other people, in much the same way that I used to think that racism was somebody else's problem, that it belonged to the people that it impacted. And now I understand both of them to be my problem, part of my social conditioning, a spiritual and cultural disease of hierarchical thinking, an impulse of those who would seek to save themselves by drawing lines, by making some people into others who deserve less than we do. Now I know better. Now we all know better. Our Unitarian Universalist faith calls us to love equally, to protect and defend and provide opportunity to all of humankind equally. We know that our own wholeness is bound up with the wholeness of the human family. And so our faith calls us also to inhabit our own bodies differently, to love them in their wholeness, not in spite of what some may call flaws, but to love our bodies with their flaws, with their challenges, consciously building up a love that includes all, that calls all the parts beloved and beautiful and ours. No part is left behind. No person is left behind. No part of the whole is unloved. During this season of Advent, practicing Christians await the coming of Jesus. They believe in a God who chose to take on human form, chose to inhabit a human body, to feel suffering and pain so that he might experience the fullness of the human condition. Now we need not to believe that. We need not believe in Jesus or Christmas to appreciate the religious idea of incarnation, the idea that we might feel a connection to one another, to history, to what is holy through our bodies. After all, it's our bodies that are how we touch one another, how we touch nature, how we take in oxygen and nutrition, the way we feel the life force coursing within us. Our bodies contain our experience of the human condition. In the season of Advent, let us all pause regularly to feel our bodies, to feel in our bodies. Let us tune into what they need: rest, relaxation, nutrition, exercise, joy, connection. And let us provide it lovingly, as if we truly loved all the parts and the whole. May we learn in this season of mystery to be ourselves fully incarnated, alive now in our human bodies, perfectly imperfect, just the way we are. May we, in the immortal words of Mary Oliver, let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. And may living in our bodies, loving them into wholeness, lead us to better love one another, to break down barriers and build up connection, to stop assuming and othering and to keep listening and learning, allowing and accepting and embracing. So may it be, and amen. Let's end worship today with a favorite hymn, number 1053. In the teal hymnal, words will appear here. How could anyone? Thank you. I invite you to remain standing for just a second and join me in the chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. You may be seated. Our worship has ended. Thank you all for joining us, being together today. Thanks to our friends on Zoom. Please enjoy a quick postlude from Tom, and then join us, if you would, in Parish Hall for refreshments. Happy Sunday.